Good morning.
Good morning.
Anybody have a tough time getting up this morning and getting your rear ends to church? Some are like no, some are like yes. I am one that is a yes. The alarm went off at 5:30 this morning and it was a struggle. I knew where I was headed with the sermon, but I wanted to come into the office, try to grab some quotes that I could add to it. As soon as I got to the office, I found out my computer screen died. Dumb me leaving it on. So my computer, I think, works, but nothing on the screen. So I had to use my cell phone this morning to look up quotes and things like that. And my eyes are getting bad because I'm getting older. And so you had to expand the screen. And I'm thinking, good night. You know, waking up at 5:30 this morning, I'm already hit with troubles and trials, and I'm supposed to speak. And then on top of that, started working out, getting ready for hunting season. And dumb me thought, oh, this will be great. I'll build up my beach muscles, which it's going to be winter time soon. So it's absolutely pointless. And so I used one of those racks to do arm curls that they bend your arms way out. You're shaking your head, Don. You know, they stretch your arms way out and then you lift up. Well, I feel nothing here at all. It's those tendons that are right here are just absolutely on fire. So if I go to point today and my arm only goes out about this far, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And the reason I say that, if anybody has ibuprofen, after the service, if you can give it to me so I can use it for service number 2. Holy Toledo. The sad thing is I've been sore for like 2 days. It's terrible. So let's pray before we start. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, I just thank you for this great and wonderful day to come and serve you. Lord, I thank you for my dad. Thank you. He's been a spiritual leader of this church for almost 40 years. Lord, thank you for the opportunity to step in here this morning for him, give him a little break. Lord, I just ask that you'll use this morning to help or motivate somebody. And I'll thank you for it. In Jesus' name, amen. So we're going to go to Matthew chapter 14. Matthew chapter 14. And this is the feeding of the 5,000, but that's not going to be the focus whatsoever. The focus is going to be the compassion aspect. And then I'm going to take off from there. So if you go to Matthew chapter 14, we're going to start out in verse 14. And it says, "And Jesus went forth and saw a great multitude and was moved with compassion toward them, and he healed their sick." And this is right before he feeds the 5,000. Now the amazing thing is he had compassion for them. In today's society, it is tough to show compassion. Here's why I know, is because I get a little egocentric. It's my world, it's my soreness, it's my having to wake up at 5:30. Everything I started to tell you this morning had nothing to do with you. It had everything to do with me. I went to the gym because I want to go hunting. Because I want to go hunting, I want to work out, so I can walk through the woods. It has nothing to do with you going hunting or you hanging out with me. It had everything to do with me. And because I chose to go to the gym, I am sore. Thus I opened up and told you that I want you to feel sorry for me. Now the reality is I don't want you to feel sorry for me. I did it to myself. But in life, we have a tough time taking the focus off of us and having compassion towards others. And I really learned that this week because God sort of put it right in front of my face. One of my alumni this week was in a major car accident. And whether I wanted to or not, I had to show compassion really, really quick. And earlier this week, for about 2 hours, I was on the phone seeing if he was okay. And I posted on the school's Facebook site, my Facebook site, that one of my basketball players and former alumni, he just zoned out, ran a red light. It happens. But when he ran the red light, he was T-boned. And he was driven all the way into a cement wall. Now, he was extremely banged up. In fact, I went and saw him, I think it was Thursday. Might have been Friday, I can't remember now. But I went and saw him, and he says, "Coach, the last thing I remember is the fire department, the fire guys were over me, asking me if I was okay, doing a check." And I'm like, wow. So we went into the emergency room. They strapped him down, made sure he could not move. And when they got him to the hospital, they checked him out. They decided they were going to release him. He had concussion and everything else, but it looked like he was going to be okay. Extremely banged up, but it looked like he was going to be okay. Well, for the first time, he stood up to go home. And all of a sudden, he doubled over in pain. So they immediately went in and checked again. And come to find out, he had a massive laceration on his large intestine. Rushed him to the operating room immediately, which is really gross, but I'm going to share with you since they shared with me. They had to cut him open from sternum past his belly button. Had to take everything out to clean him up because he had been draining for over 6 hours. Luckily, he didn't die. Put everything back out in and sewed him up. Now he's going to be okay, thank God.
Amen.
But when I went and visited him, I'm sitting there, and his mom, which I have known for 20 years, said, "Thank you so much for coming." And I sort of, why are you thanking me? This is one of my basketball players. This is one of my boys. Why are you thanking me for coming? And the reason they were thanking me is because I gave up my time to be compassionate and go visit him. Now, it took nothing for me to go visit with him for an hour and a half. It didn't take anything, but it meant the world to them. See, the problem is we get caught up every single day only worried about ourselves that we forget that we need to have compassion towards others. Now, once again, I said, I'm sore. Feel compassionate for me. That's not what it's talking about. It's talking about genuine compassion. The problem is nowadays people are really, really dumb. I'm going to be honest with you, they are. Claudia and I went to Bel Air. We had a nice daddy-daughter little 30-minute trip. I didn't have the other two. It was just her and I. We were going to go get dinner. So we walked in Bel Air. We were goofing around. I looked like probably the model dad walking through the store with his daughter, goofing around with her. I came out, and 2 parking slots from us, there was a vehicle parked backwards the wrong way in a handicap spot. And I looked in the passenger seat, and it was a young lady. She did not look handicapped. So I figured, well, that's pretty mean. You sent the handicapped person in to go to the store. And so as I'm putting the groceries into my truck, and we got going, and I got in, I noticed this younger guy running out of the store with flowers in his hand, jumps into his vehicle. He didn't look handicapped either. And I told Claudia, are you kidding me? Somebody, because of their convenience, their own selfishness, decided to park in the handicap spot. Well, the amazing thing is usually there's always handicap spots open. There was no other handicap spots open. There was a ton of other parking spots, but there were no handicap spots available. They took the only one left. And I was, not a whole lot gets me hot, but I was pretty upset. And so I'm about ready to back out in my big F-150, and across from me is a senior citizen person that I had seen get into her vehicle, and she was backing out at the same time. I decided to be the good Christian person, let them go first. So I let her go first. As she starts backing out, this person going the wrong way pulls out of the handicap spot and starts coming the wrong way towards me. Cuts her off, and now is blocking me. You know how tough it is to show compassion to idiots? It is extremely difficult. So me as a good Christian, I jumped out of my vehicle and I handed them a Christian tract.
Amen.
I'm lying. I didn't do that at all. I quickly put mine in reverse and cut them off. Because that's what big guys in an F-150 do. And so because my vehicle was bigger than their vehicle, and now I have the right-of-way, they had to get over literally inches going the wrong way from cars, and I just waited for them to move, blocking the entire aisle. Now, I wish I could tell you I was a great Christian that showed compassion, but I was not. Why? Because I looked at this person like, are you absolute moron? First, you took a handicap spot for your convenience. Then you cut off probably a sweet lady that was probably in her 70s. And now you're going the wrong way. Everybody else is going to have to go around your world. And so they looked up at me. I'm sure they thought, oh, you know what? We're going to get out and this is going to be an altercation. But don't forget, my truck sits high and I have this big beard and I'm not a small guy. So I'm in a standoff with this person, staring at them. And I want to get out and beat the snot out of them. I really do. Because remember, people are not the brightest anymore. Instead, I made them move over, allowed the lady to back out, because I'm now blocking his way, allowed the lady to back out, and then I went and they went on. And I didn't chase them down. I didn't do anything like that. But showing compassion to people nowadays is extremely, extremely difficult. Number one, because of our busy lives, and number two is because other people are sometimes tough to love. Now, the amazing thing with the feeding of the 5,000 is Jesus didn't walk through and say, I'm only going to feed the ones in which I like. I'm only going to feed the ones in which are good looking. I'm only going to feed the ones which are above 60 years old because they need it. I'm only going to feed the young because they need to be molded into great people. No. Jesus didn't do that. In fact, it says he had compassion on them. Franklin Graham says, I just believe as a Christian, we are to show love. We're to show compassion to people. Not to point the finger. No, not to do this. But to do this. To love them, welcome them, and embrace them. Now, I wish I could honestly stand up here and tell you I got out, witnessed to that person, and showed them compassion. I did not. I'm human just like you. In fact, as I'm driving away, I realized how dumb was that. I had my daughter in the passenger seat, which showed my stupidity. But the reality is we need to show compassion. Why? Because if we show compassion, they're going to see Christ through us. And isn't that what's important? Now this morning as I was finishing up studying, I'm like, God, is this going to be the message that I need to preach? And so I opened back up my Facebook and I had a message from one of my alumni and it says, Coach, I just want to thank you for everything you've done for me and my family in the past year. Now that could be nice and pat on the back, but that's not the point. The point was, because I had showed compassion to somebody with not getting anything back, they were reaching out later on saying thank you. Isn't that what it's about? If people are supposed to see Christ through us, then the only way they're going to be able to do that is if we show compassion to them, no matter who they are. Show compassion. We go chapter 14. We're going to go verses 15 through 21. And when it was the evening, his disciples came to him, saying, This is a desert place, and the time is now past. Send the multitude away, and they may go into the villages and buy themselves victuals. But Jesus answered unto them, They need not depart. Give them to eat. And they said unto him, We have here but 5 loaves and 2 fishes. He said, Bring them hither to me. And he commanded the multitude to sit down on the grass, and he took the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, and looking upon the heaven, he blessed and brake, and gave the loaves to his disciples, and the disciples to the multitude. And they did all eat, and were filled, and they took up the fragments that remained, 12 baskets full. They that had eaten were about 5,000 men, besides women and children. Now, Christ did not get caught up in the semantics of compassion. It is real tough to show compassion to people. And if you get caught up in semantics, what's it going to benefit me? Do I have to worry that the bread's not gluten-free? Christ didn't worry about any of this. Do I have to worry that they don't like tuna fish? Do I have to worry that somebody may be allergic to something? Christ didn't worry about any of that. What did he do? He took the bread, he took the fish, broke it up, and fed the 5,000. Because if we get caught up into semantics about compassion and never start being compassionate, then we will never start being compassionate. I have a really rough time when the discussion came with the deacons and my dad about me eventually taking over as a pastor. I said, one of the concerns I have is forgiveness, because I am human. I struggle with this often. Because when people do me wrong, I'm not looking to forgive too quick. I'm not. I'm not quickly looking to be compassionate either. I'm sometimes not egocentric, because I'm not, but I worry about my rest. I worry about my cares. I'm human. And I've seen my dad year in and year out, be compassionate towards others no matter what the cost. And so for me, I said, sometimes I have a tough time forgiving. That's one of the things I worked on. And my dad and both the deacons says, well, that's normal. That's normal. But we have to start being compassionate towards others. Because if we're compassionate towards others, then people once again can see Christ. Now, if you guys walk up to somebody and you start a conversation with them, do you immediately tell them how good your kids are, how nice your car is, how beautiful your home is, how great your hair looks? Or do you immediately start asking them questions about themselves? I found out a long time ago from my dad that the best way to show compassion towards people is to listen. I found that one out this week. If I just sit down with people and listen, amazing things happen. It's amazing what you find out about people when you sit down and genuinely show compassion and just listen. You find out the most amazing things. The problem is, a lot of times we don't want to sit down with people and listen to them because we're afraid of what we're going to hear. Because if we sit down and listen to them, we might have to jump in and help. We might have to be involved in their lives. And that's where sometimes that compassion sort of stops. Because if we sit down and listen to somebody, then we might actually have to be involved in their lives. Wasn't this what Christ did? He sat down, he was compassionate, and then got involved. We as Christians need to do the exact same thing. John Stott, in 1978, when he was preaching a message on the Sermon on the Mount, he said, the truth is that there are such things as Christian tears, and too few of us ever weep them. In other words, a lot of times we get caught up in our own personal gains that we don't dig deep to be compassionate for others. Now, I also posted this week asking everybody to be in prayer for the Jensen family. Did anybody see that post? The Jensen family post? Trent Jensen is an umpire that we have known, especially Todd Conroy and myself and my dad, we have known for years. Absolute years. He does baseball games for Todd at Westwood. He has 4 children. This week, his youngest, an 8-month-old daughter, passed away. They woke up in the morning and she had died. Now, the outpouring of emotion, I can't even imagine. I can't imagine waking up and one of my children being dead. But I'll tell you what, I quickly can understand how much compassion that family needs. But it's not just in the death of a loved one that people need compassion. It's in everyday life. The reality is we all are going through something. But if we sit down and show them Christ through compassion, it not only changes their world, but it also changes yours. How many feel extremely good when you help somebody else out? You better believe it. I had a driving home from the Bay Area the other day. I saw people on the side of the road. Oh my goodness. I saw this one pregnant lady. She was on the side of the road. Traffic was just backed up. And hood was up. She was looking inside. And she had somebody else there that was helping her look at the engine. And I rolled by there thinking, man, I wish I was a mechanic, because I would have stopped and helped this pregnant lady on the side of the road. But the reality is, we were bumper to bumper traffic. Number one, I couldn't get over. And number two, they already had a phone because they were on it. And they were already looking under the hood. The only thing I could provide for them was a phone. They already had it. But I thought, man, how nice of that was that guy to stop for the pregnant lady on the freeway, showed compassion, when I'm sure he wanted to go somewhere else, not stop on the side of the freeway. And then I thought, how awesome is that he used his talent of probably being a mechanic to help this lady out. I can tell you last year, I am so thankful for a mechanic that I've never met nor I've never talked to. My wife broke down on Antelope over by, Coles. And it was bumper to bumper traffic, and she was stopped. And a mechanic that was about 5 or 6 cars down got out of his vehicle, helped her and my son push their car into Kohl's, got in, analyzed it. I think it was your water pump or something was out. Gave her the diagnosis and says, you're not going to be able to fix it on the road, but at least you're safe now. And then we had it towed. And I thought, man, how awesome is that? I don't know if he's a Christian or not, but somebody to come up and do something for an absolute stranger, that compassion is overwhelming. Ephesians 4, verses 32. It says, and be ye kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God, for Christ's sake, hath forgiven you. Ephesians 4:32. Man, those key words, tender-hearted. Be ye kind, tender-hearted, forgiving. Those are tough words. They're easy to say, they're very difficult to apply. Why? Because we have self-motivation. Not that of helping others, but of helping ourselves. And if we step back a little bit and say, you know what, I'm just going to take on this week to help somebody else, you will be surprised on how much your life will be blessed, because it says, be kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God, for Christ's sake, has forgiven you. Thomas Aquinas said, I would rather feel compassion than know the meaning of it. Boy, isn't that the truth? Don't tell me. My dad has preached this for years. Don't tell me how much you know, because I don't care. Show me how much you care. I learned that a long time ago as a coach. The more that I cared for my players and their life outside of sports, the bigger bond that I had with them. And isn't that a principle of Christ and a principle of life that we need to share? If we worry more about others, not just what we can gain, but if we worry about others, won't we be fulfilled also? Because as Thomas Aquinas says, I really don't care what it means, I just want compassion. 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 8 says, finally, be ye all of one mind, having compassion one of another, love as brethren, be pitiful, be courteous. Be of one mind. Imagine what would happen and the impact this church could make if every single one of us as a body started showing compassion to others, whether it be in the workplace or at the store. If we genuinely showed compassion to people, don't you think they'd want to know where it came from? The problem is a lot of times we just show compassion in spurts when it benefits us. I will show compassion for you for a quick minute, and then I will stop because I have to go back to my life. Because that's me sometimes. I'm feeling real compassionate. I want to show Christ today. I'm going to be compassionate. But then tomorrow I'm going to be real busy, and so I'm not going to be able to do it. No. The amazing things that would happen if we were compassionate towards others as Christ was day in and day out. Luke chapter 22, verse 27. This is Christ speaking. It says, for whether is greater, he that serveth, not he that sitteth at meat, I am among you as that servant. Where does compassion start? It starts with you being a servant. What's a servant? Servant to others. Servant to Christ. I did something this week I did not want to do. Alex, close your ears. I did not want to go to the Bay Area and get football helmets this week. We had a major debacle with the people that recondition our football helmets, and it was time for our guys to put on football helmets this week. And we found out, 2 days in, that 14, something like that, 14 of our helmets that we sent in could not be fixed because the company went out of business. Now here's the problem. We understand companies go out of business. If you would have let us know ahead of time, we would have made the proper adjustments. But now we have started football practice here at VCA. Our kids need to put on helmets. Wednesday, was Wednesday our first day? They need to put helmets on Wednesday. This is Tuesday. We still don't have enough football helmets. So we had to go out and spend lots of money and find wherever we could get football helmets, and then get them painted to our color, which is difficult, and then get them here. And so we got this order in. Somebody, one of our coaches had a connection down in the Bay Area with Rydell, a football company. They got the helmets. They put a rush order. They were going to get them done in 4 days for us, which is an absolute godsend. But then the problem came. We either wait 4 or 5 days to get them shipped, or somebody gets in a vehicle and drives down to Union City to get football helmets. Now, my coaching staff is amazing. 2 of them are here in this service. Roman, how much did you get paid from Valley Christian to coach football last year? 0. So did I, so don't feel bad. Alex didn't get paid either. Neither is Hank DeMello, which is our other coach. They're not going to get, they do it out of the kindness of their hearts. Now my first thought, this is where I need football coaches to close their ears, my first thought is, this is a football issue, not a me issue. And I didn't think about it too long, but human instinct comes up. I hate driving. And the older I get, when I get into a vehicle and I travel more than 2 hours, my hips absolutely kill me. I don't know if you guys ever done the zombie walk after driving? You get out. Yeah, and it takes about 10 minutes to straighten up. Yeah, about 2 hours into a trip, I get the zombie walk. And so my son went with me, and we drove down there, and as soon as we got near Davis, guess what happened? Traffic. And all I was thinking about for 10 minutes was, I should have made Alex do this. Or, that's why you're supposed to close your ears. Or, why can't we just wait till next week and just have them shipped here? But then that quickly went away with, no, my job's to be a servant. Now, once again, when it comes to sports here, I'm the boss. But the boss is now going to get 8 football helmets. Because the principle I learned a long time is if you're the leader, you better be a servant first. And if you're going to have compassion, it starts with being a servant. And if you have a servant, that means you have the same heart as Christ. And if you have the same heart as Christ, that means you're going to be a testimony for others. And so guess what? Even though I might thought it because I was a human being, I was still in the vehicle. We caught traffic in Davis, we caught traffic in Vacaville, we caught traffic in Fairfield, we caught traffic at the Bay Bridge, we caught traffic at the Oakland Coliseum or Overstock.com, whatever it is now. And then, believe it or not, on the way back, we caught traffic at other different spots. 2 hours we spent in traffic. It made for a very, very long day. But you know how happy I was when I opened up the box and I gave Alex the football helmets? I felt like I had completed something. Was I not genuinely happy? I really felt like I had completed something. Why? Because I took time out of my schedule and my day to make sure to help my football coaches and my football players out. Now, they benefited from the helmets, but I benefited from the servant aspect. And because I benefited from the servant aspects and I had compassion, there's no way I'm going to have my football coaches that volunteer their time travel to the Bay Area to go get helmets when they get paid 0 to come out and mentor to young men for Christ. There's no way. It's our job to take that lead as servants. Now, here's the amazing thing, and I'll end with this. Matthew chapter 9, verses 36 through 38. And this is what is so important nowadays. We know it is tough to be compassionate, but we must. We do not want to get caught up in the semantics of where to start, how to start, what to do. We just need to act. We know that we must be a servant first in order to show compassion, because that's what Christ does. But then we go to Matthew chapter 9, verses 36 through 38. But when he saw the multitudes, he was moved with compassion on them, because they fainted and were scattered abroad as sheep having no shepherd. Then saith he unto his disciples, The harvest truly is plenteous, but the laborers are few. Pray ye therefore the Lord of the harvest, that he will send forth laborers into his harvest. Here's the problem. There are a ton of people out there that need your compassion. Your compassion. Not mine, not my dad's, not the music. They need your compassion. But the problem is the laborers are few. How tough is it just to sit down for a half an hour with somebody and listen to what they have going on in their life? This summer I have done more listening to people than probably any other summer. And it's amazing how you can have an influence for Christ when you show compassion. But where does that compassion start? It starts when we're a servant first. And when we're a servant, then we become compassionate. What does the Bible say? There are few. Why? Because we all can say we're Christians on Sunday, but if we don't walk out and show people that we're actually Christ, we're showing people Christ's love and Christ's compassion, then how are we going to change the world? I implore you this morning, take this week to be compassionate so that Christ may see, or that people may see Christ in you.
Let's stand together if you would.